Oh, hi, Jesse. Ready for web comments, I assume?
That we are.
Okay. Today is January 13th, 2013. I'm Joe Terril, president of Terril and Company, independent wealth management firm in St. Louis, Missouri, with about $540 million worth of discretionary money under investment. And we will be updating our views for what our outlook for 2013 is, as well as maybe a brief recap of 2012. So we thank you for joining us. And Jesse, do you want to go in the conference room, or where do you want to do this from?
All right, we'll figure something out.
Okay, let's get after it.
Sounds good.
2012 was a very interesting year. It started out with a lot of concerns over the problems in Europe that was kind of a carryover from the fall of 2011. There were already concerns about the upcoming elections in November of 2012. There were concerns about raising the debt ceiling limit, China's economy slowing down, many concerns. Our position then for most of those concerns was the issues were not going to be make it or break it issues for the investment markets, and that the underlying economy was strong enough that we would end up with a reasonable year of 2 to 3% growth in the worldwide economy. We probably were a little high on that. Economic growth wasn't as strong, but on the other hand, the investment markets did just fine, and none of those issues were able to derail the markets. That leads up to what we'll talk more about our outlook for 2013. Why didn't they derail the markets? And what really is the driving force of why the investment markets continue to do as well as they have over the last 3 to 4 or 5 years even? And the answer to that question is we are living in a world where there is unprecedented liquidity being provided by central banks all over the world. The Federal Reserve Bank of the United States is expanding its balance sheet at an incredible pace, injecting liquidity into the economy. Bank of Japan is doing the same, the Bank of Europe. This massive amount of liquidity that's being funneled into the world economy, more often than not, is finding its way into equity markets and investment markets. That has been good for the last 3 to 4 years, but it's not necessarily a good long-term result. I compare it maybe to saying it's like a Grand Prix race car roaring around the course at 300 miles an hour. That's fine, that's good. It will probably win the race, but you must be concerned and worry about what if that car skids out of control and crashes and burns. It will not be pretty. And I relate this to the fact that this massive monetary printing by central bankers could become incredibly inflationary. It could literally create hyperinflation around the world. And we all know that hyperinflation is not good and tends to be very disruptive to economies, business, and investments. So 2012, I think, documented, if you will, that the other issues, the election, the fiscal cliff, which we're on record of saying some time ago was nothing and was going to be nothing, it would end up being a non-event. It has become a non-event, and it was nothing. And even the silly agreement that the politicians made on the first day of the year sort of proves that, you know, whatever the politicians decide to do, whatever business people in Europe decide to do about their problems, the elections came and went. All of these various issues are small. They're nothing in comparison to the issue of the worldwide liquidity being provided by central bankers. And investment markets ended up returning some pretty nice rates of return. In general, our portfolios are up around 10% for the year 2012. That's good, we're pleased with it, but now our job is to talk about 2013 and what we're going to do to protect our clients from this potential problem of central bankers flooding the world with way too much liquidity, debasing paper currencies all over the world, and where are we going from here in 2013. So we will switch to that. In 2013, the question is, will the mistakes, and I stress the mistakes of central bankers of providing this massive liquidity, will this catch up with economies and investment markets or not? That's the question that quite a few people all over the world are asking. When will the velocity of money begin to turn enough around the world that all this money that's been created begins to create the inflation that it's bound to create? And Ben Bernanke and such central bankers think that they are going to be able to somehow remove that money from the system before it creates a problem. This is ridiculous. It's much like the Grand Prix race car racing around the course at 300 mile an hour, and when the driver loses control and begins to skid and head towards the concrete wall, that the pit crew chief is somehow going to radio the driver and tell him, hey, you'd better slow down. It's way too late then. Bernanke, in my opinion, will not be able to do this. So the only question is, when will this issue begin to come front and center? I don't know the answer to that. We will be monitoring everything that happens to try and be well ahead of this issue. Certainly selling any investment that has a fixed income nature to it is a good idea. Interest rates will go higher. They've begun to go a little bit higher here at the first of the year. A 10-year government bond's up from the 1 5/8, 1 3/4 level to closer to 2%. I believe by the end of 2013 that rate will probably be 3 to 3.5%. Historically very low, but it's the direction that we're going to begin to head that's more important. Equities could make it through this issue without a problem. After all, most corporations have fixed assets. They represent an ownership of a means of production that can tend to protect against hyperinflation. So we'll have to see how these events are going to play off. If the world economy stays, and the United States economy in particular continues to muddle along with 1.5% type growth or less, it may not create an issue in 2013. It may become a 2014 or 2015 issue. We tend to doubt that. Even though I would acknowledge that might be the case, I do believe it'll be a 2013 issue. So with these things said, it's our job to try and guide our portfolios through these potential problems. I will be incredibly interested to see what type of foreign influence comes in on our negotiations over raising the debt ceiling limit that will occur in mid-February, early March. This is a major issue, not as a political issue, but because it very well may create the venue by which foreigners demand that the United States stop the money printing, that the United States stop buying all of our own bonds with printed up money, and let interest rates in the United States move higher. This actually will be, if it happens, a positive longer term for our economy and for our investment markets. The quicker they stop the money printing and, if you will, the wrong economic policy of supplying so much liquidity, the better. So we wish everybody somewhat of a belated Happy New Year for 2013. And in comparison to this one issue, all the other issues of taxation and various things are small. They're like having a regular Chevrolet race car out on the track. You're not even competitive with that Grand Prix race car that's racing around at 300 miles an hour. The other issues that could come up are very small in relationship to this one issue. What's going to happen with the massive amount of liquidity that is being provided by central bankers all over the world, and how is this going to be dealt with without it ending in a disaster? We are getting more positive and constructive towards gold and any assets that represent fixed assets. We also continue to be buyers of floating rate paper. As interest rates go higher, we certainly want our interest payments to go up with interest rates. So we'll be back probably in about 30 days to bring an update, and by that time we'll probably be right on top of the debate concerning raising the debt ceiling limit. And once again, our hope there is that foreigners will demand of us what we've demanded of the socialist countries out of Europe, that they stop the money printing, that they get serious about austerity programs, and they get serious about what they're going to do to create worldwide growth. So with that said, we will do our next podcast in about 30 days. We thank you for joining us for our thoughts on the economy as we enter into 2013. Once again, I'm Joe Terril, president of Terril and Company, independent wealth managers in St. Louis, Missouri. And we appreciate you joining us and appreciate any comments you have. And all of the ways to reach us are available on our website. And we thank you.